Before we install our PINet, there are a couple of things we need to check on. First of all, we'd like to make sure that our PINet machine, our VMS machine, has enough disk space. So I'm looking at command show device D. Turns out all the device drivers for disks in VMS start with the letter D. And it shows me that I've got 6,472,000 blocks free. That's approximately 3.2 gigabytes. That's more than enough space for the PINet installation that we need to make. The next thing that I've done is I've established a place for us to install our PINet. We're going to be installing our PINet onto a disk called DUA0. And I'm going to check to see that my Pi3 server, it's a computer called Chuck PC7, I'm going to check to make sure that our Pi3 server is online. I'm going to do that with the ping command. You could also do this with FTP if your Pi3 server has FTP installed. And I can see that the Chuck PC7 machine is reachable. There's a couple of things I also want to check on the Pi3 server itself. So I've opened up a command window to the Pi3 server, and I've used the net start command to show what services are running over there. And what I'm looking to do is scroll through this list and see that there are the usual and expected Pi something and Pi dash something services running. So this looks like the core of my Pi server. Also, I've continued and I've used the piartool-ss command to show that Pi system's online and how many tags I have and so on. So it turns out that I've built about 100 tags already, which we're going to hope to collect data using our PINet node and send it to the Pi3 server for archiving. So it looks like we're just about ready to start the installation. We're ready to begin the installation of PINet. I've logged into my VMS machine that's going to be our PINet interface node as the system manager, a user called system, and here I've shown the devices on my machine. DKA300 is my hard drive, my Winchester disk, and DKA400 is my CD-ROM. We're going to make our installation from files on the CD-ROM, but it's also possible to make the installation from files that you've already copied to disk. Here in my command list I've got an example of the command used to mount the CD. I've abbreviated some of the options here, and we're going to take a look at this command again, but this is the command that's used to mount the CD. When the CD becomes mounted, VMS will show us the name of the volume, and it also shows here that it's write-locked. Obviously it's a CD-ROM. The label information from the CD should match the information for your system, and this is normally also on the printed on the CD itself, so you can confirm that you've got the right system. And this information right here is your Pi server number. So this should be your Pi server number that you use when installing Pi, upgrading Pi, contacting technical support, and attempting to obtain downloads for your system. Now that the CD is mounted, we can take a look at the directory. So here's a list of the files that are present on the CD right now. This particular CD has files for PINet version 2.3. You're probably going to be working with a newer version of PINet. Our distribution kits for Pi consist of an A save set, which has the product-specific VMS install instructions. In other words, the VMS install instructions that are specific to PINet. A B save set that is actually the PINet product itself, and there may or may not be a C save set. The C save set would include the encrypted source code and other files that we call the Pi source directory tree. These files may be useful for examples or documentation, testing utilities, or they may be files that technical support may ask you to restore to the system to aid them in troubleshooting or debugging problem you're having, or to even run the debugger online and do development on your system. I mentioned earlier a set of or a file with a set of instructions in it that is a brief description of the CD, and that's this readme.win file. This readme.win file is actually a text file that was created with Notepad in the Windows environment, and for some reason or other this file doesn't read very well in the VMS environment. So if you want to look at this file, you can copy it to your PC and then look at it there. This is a copy of what the readme.win file looks like. So there's some introductory information describing the CD, which I've already gone over with you a little bit. And finally down here I get to a set of instructions that help me deal with the CD. And these are an abbreviated set of instructions for installing PINet. So here we can see the mount command that I used, and here the mount command has all the qualifiers and parameters spelled out full. Mount/override equals identification, media format CD-ROM, undefined FAT equals fixed, none, and 9216. In some cases I mentioned you may want to install the CD from files that you've copied to your computer with FTP, and if that's the case, one of the things you need to know is that FTP will damage the files in the file transfer process, and you'll need to reblock the files. So here are instructions that you can use for reblocking the files. So this set file/attribute equals LRL 9216 will take care of undoing the damage that FTP does to the files when you move them. Scrolling back up here a ways, this is an example of the command I might use to start the installation of PINet or upgrade of PINet on my computer. In your case, you're probably going to be working with a newer version of PINet than I am. We're working with 2.3. You're probably really going to be working with PINet version 2.4, so your command will look something like this, where you'll replace CD device with the name of your CD drive. My CD drive is DKA400. I think we're ready to continue with the installation. We're using VMS install technology. You can think of VMS install as being similar to the Windows setup program. VMS install is an engine that products like Pi can use to perform their installation tasks or upgrade tasks. VMS install is in the sys$update directory, and it's called VMS install with one L. And this thing needs some parameters passed to it. So the first parameter will be the name of the product I want to install. In my case it's 023. And then we need to tell it the location of the product. And in my case it's going to be DKA400. Backup. We ask you if you're satisfied with the backup of your system disk. The backup of the system disk and a backup of the disk where PINet is installed, if PINet's on a separate disk. Those backups are the only way to undo a failed installation. So the backup's pretty important. The next message here, PINet version 2.3, actually comes off of the CD, so this indicates that I've successfully reached out to the CD and found the PINet product. That's good news. We restore the A save set and then start executing commands from it. We check to make sure this is a new installation of PINet, and we ask the question again just in case you clicked with your mouse or hit the key accidentally while the computer was running or had a pad or something laying on the keyboard. And then we check system parameters. We can see here I've got some issues. Some of these issues are reported to me, let me scroll back, with I in the message, and some of these are reported to me with F in the message. The F is a fatal problem I definitely have to fix before I can go on. The I messages are informational, and it's optional to fix those. But we can see here that a number of my parameters need some adjustment. I'm going to grab this and copy it and stick it in my clipboard so I can refer to this later. You probably keep a log or some sort of a document file open when you're working on your system. That's a good practice, and that's what I'm going to do with this information. Our VMS install kit can allow you to automatically attempt to fix problems here. So I'm going to say yes for automatic autogen, and we'll let the system try and fix these. When we come back in the next lesson, we'll take a look at the results of the automatic autogen, and we'll see if it's okay to continue.